Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast, episode 93. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And it is the end of the year.
Thank for that.
That's it. Yeah, why not wait for the F-bomb to build up, Sid? Just drop it straight in.
This year could just off. I can't wait to see the back of it.
You know things don't magically change when the calendar rolls over.
Mentally, in my mind, it's a whole new year. It's all go wrong again. It can go wrong on the first day, I'll be honest. We'll probably be in lockdown by January the 1st anyway.
Well, I've heard rumours of them talking about a tier 5, which I think is basically short of basically just plague carts trolling cities.
I think tier 6 is when they just shoot you first. You know, just like a fire break.
That's
it.
Bang,
They're not going to spread
done.
the virus, just shoot everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Glass crater it.
Yeah. So yes, this is supposed to be, this is at this time of year, it's the end of 2020, it's the end of the year. We always do like an end of year review where we pick the best games we've played over the last 12 months. Of course, this year's been a bit odd.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I think this podcast is going to carry more caveats than a Sony EOLA.
Because I've played a hell of a lot less than I normally would tabletop board game wise, but played a hell of a lot more RPGs because we've been playing RPGs online. We've played less, we've seen less because there's been less conventions. I think there's actually been generally less games released this year compared to normal.
Certainly feels that way.
Certainly feels that. And we've not had the big conventions where we've gone and visited and we played 20 games in one day kind of thing.
True.
Which we try and do during Expo and knacker ourselves out in the process.
Yes, rules overload. Oh, getting too old for this shit now.
We're also going to say usually we try and pick only games that have come out this year, but I think this year, as you said, more caveats, Andy. It's just any game we've played this year that was good. Because it's trying to narrow it down to what actually came out this year, because we always have a problem that talking about games, I don't know what it is about board game companies, but they never seem to be very good at releasing games in time for Christmas. Yeah, the video game market's got it right. Okay, we all know that Cyberpunk 2020 or whatever it was had loads of issues because it was released too early, but it was released at that time, so it was out in time for Christmas.
And to be fair, having it on PC is fine.
There we
go. I've got no problems with it at all. Apart from the key binding issue, other than that, it's been all right.
But board games end up coming out like second or third week in December, which is always a weird time because you got to try and hunt them down then, and you can't get them for Christmas. I mean, there's two games I would like. We probably would have mentioned normally that I don't know if I've got them yet because of Christmas being cancelled. I know my sister's got me a board game for Christmas, but I don't know what she's got me, so I can't even buy any board games now.
Yeah, because just in case.
Comes in.
Yeah.
So yeah, all in all, a bit odd.
Yes. I went for the simple route me and my brother do every year because we don't know what to get each other. So we thought, whiskey? Yeah, that'll do. So I've got a bottle of whiskey wrapped up here and I'm thinking, that ain't going to last till the end of January. That's getting tanned.
Why don't you just keep yours and he drinks his?
Well, exactly. That's pretty much what
solved.
we both agreed. Yeah, we're like, it'll do. It's fine. Well, it depends. It's now it's a battle of wills now. Is who cracks first.
I reckon you'll have cracked it by the end of this podcast, mate.
Do you know what? You're probably not wrong.
If we can hear a glug, 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 glug in the background.
And the rustle of a brown paper bag, yeah.
So you've wrapped it in, just brown paper, just cut out the middle, man.
He just wants to give it the true tramp feeling.
Absolutely, yes. I give him a dirty Mac and a bottle of whiskey. That's his Christmas present. Yes, well.
Oh, dear.
So we have got to that age now where it's like, what do you buy someone? I don't know, because you don't want to buy any more crap to fill their house with, because it's just I'll either go into the bin or getting stuff. Oh, no, thanks, that's really useful. Put it in a cupboard, forget about it. Discover it for 5 years and go, yeah, we don't need this. So there's no point in doing things like that. So you could buy an experience, but we can't do that because you're not allowed to do anything at the moment. So your experience is, here's a cushion. That'll improve your experience of sitting on your arse at home.
Do you have the problem as well that relatives decide what you can't have?
Yes.
I have several of my relatives go, well, you don't need any more board games, so we're not going to buy you any of them.
You know, my mum says something. Well, you can only play one at once. Well, that's not the point. I've got 4 guitars. I can only play one of them at once. It doesn't stop me wanting another one.
And then they go, and you're so tricky to buy for. No, I'm not. I've told you exactly what I want, and you've refused to buy it me.
Oh, but that's not the same. You can't tell me what I'm supposed to get you. That ruins the surprise. I don't care. I'm 41 years old. It doesn't matter.
A lot of weight on your chest there, Andy.
It's not ranty, mate. It's just the frivolity of the whole thing. They go through this ridiculous facade for 41 years, or however old you may be. 42 in Steve's case.
Right. Really off tangent. This is going off topic, right? We didn't go to Dunelm Mill in the bank holiday sales. We went to Dreams, right? So not far off. Although we did buy all the stuff from Dunelm Mill online, right?
You were there in spirit, then.
I was there in spirit. And you know, they ask you like for your age and certain things. You do Dreams, you do this whole thing where you go in this mechanical bed. You're supposed to measure like, you know, your weight and your weight distribution and how you lie and all that. And they want some stats to put into it. And they said, oh, what age group are you? Oh, madam, to my wife, you know, to Amanda. Oh, what age group are you? And Amanda looks at it and goes, oh, I'm that one. And it just looks at me grinning. And I go, sir, which age group are you? 40 to 55 was the age group.
Oh dear. Oh, that's sad. I've never been to Dreams, Steve. So all of this scientific measurement of how fat your arse is, and therefore that's how sturdy a bed frame you need. I've never experienced that. That sounds like fun. Can you like pack lead weights into your clothes so you get a really super comfy bed?
Well, no, because it's supposed to actually adjust it based on your actual weight. So yeah, you don't want to make it. You don't want to be too heavy because then you'll just end up with like a concrete slab when you actually get in there.
It's not an exam to cheat at, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. That reminds me, actually, I need a new mattress for our bed. Because you're supposed to change them every 5 to 7 years or something. I've had mine probably about 7 or 8 now, and it's a memory foam one which I really like. It's nice and soft when you get it, but the problem is they don't last as long as the springy steel ones. So it's kind of got a massive arse print in it that won't go away. So I need to go with it. Because you're supposed to turn them around. Obviously, on a normal mattress, you flip them over to sort of distribute the weight, as it were, and the natural lumps that humans have. But there's nothing natural about my arse, unfortunately. So with a memory foam one, you can't flip them over. You have to just spin them around, and there's only so many times you can spin it before dents start to appear.
You've got 2 arse prints, one north and one south.
Exactly, pretty much. Yeah. They're slightly diagonally opposite on the mattress.
Oh, here it is, folks. The Polyhedron Collider cast, the only podcast where you can tune in to hear the best game of 2020 and hear about Andy's arse print.
Yep. It's important life information.
Oh dear. Right, I think we should actually move on before we.
I think we should.
It's going to go down so many rabbit holes.
Oh, good lord.
We have an important announcement to make first, which is our first award of the episode. Well, might only be the second award. So we usually say this of Andy's Insert of Choice. Very prestigious award.
Definitely. It even garnered people making their own trophies 2 years running, which I thought was quite a nice touch of them, because we couldn't be arsed, so they did our job for us. So yes, despite it being a relatively sparse year, I've actually come up with a fair few contenders actually this year, more than I did for the last 2, I think, put together. Now, generally, I look at this in terms of robustness. The what I'm going to call the Lords of Waterdeep test is where it looks lovely when it's flat until you put it on its side in the Kallax and the whole thing just goes tick, 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 inside the box, and you end up with just a salad of counters at the bottom. And also, you know, whether it's easy to get out, whether to put together, and whether it holds up. So this year, there are a number of contenders, some of which you may have seen, some of which you may have not. So there's Tang Garden, which I think came out earlier this year. which is all very, very pretty and contains lots of tiles and counters and things. Island of Eldorado, which I have to say is very beautiful, because that's the sort of collector's edition kind of, we've made all the expansions we're going to now, here's a big box Kickstarter sort of affair. The actual game came out a couple of years ago, but this is one I got this year, and that's very pretty. That's a nice black unfolding affair with lots of different counters and boxes and things that you can just unfurl and go, here's your box kind of thing. There's Cleopatra and the Society of Architects, which I got last week. I haven't played it yet, so I have no idea what it's like, but it's a decent insert at least. Everything turned up intact. There is Struggle of Empires, which is another sort of Eagle Griffin super deluxe sexy thing, which are always sort of well made. There's Dwellings of Eldervale, which is an interesting kind of side-ish game, which we may talk about at some point, which has a game trays insert. We don't need to say any more about that. But that's one of the, that's really, really good. And then there's the Too Many Bones Trove Chest, which I realise technically is not an insert. It's an additional huge, physically the size of a Kallax cube, wooden box with drawers and magnetic grabbers and goodness knows what else. So there's quite a lot going on here.
I've only seen one of these boxes, and it is by far the most impressive board game box I think I have ever seen.
Is this the Trove Chest?
This is the Too Many Bones Trove Chest.
Yes.
Because it's not. You're right. It's not an insert. It's a box of its own merit. But it's got all these lovely little trays that come out, which have got all the dice trays. I mean, because Too Many Bones is just dice. And so all these little trays come out with the dice and the chip tokens, because all the tokens are poker chips, aren't they? That's what the company does.
Yes.
But what I found absolutely it's just a little thing. They're all drawers. But to pull out the drawer, you've got a magnetic handle.
Yes.
So you move the handle to the drawer you want and then pull that drawer out.
It's really good.
It was so beautiful and so well made. I mean, it cost about the same amount as the game, though, didn't it?
No, actually, it was surprisingly cheap because it was part of the Splice and Dice kind of Kickstarter expansion they did. And if memory serves, the whole thing, so the expansion, the extra stuff they did, and the Trove Chest was all less than £150, if I remember rightly. Now, the base game costs an RRP of something like 93. So, I mean, this isn't cheap stuff. But considering this is a solid wood MDF thing covered in fantastic artwork and all of these magnets and stuff with all the drawers, I think that's bloody good value for money. Because I suspect the expansion alone was probably 50 quid.
Fair enough.
Because there was quite a lot in it. So, it wasn't as expensive as you might think. And that was including all of the shipping as well, I think. I might be wrong on that point, but... No, I probably am wrong because the shipping, actually, the shipping was cripplingly expensive because it was a huge great box. But it wasn't as expensive as you might think.
Okay.
It reminds me of a Snap-on tool chest. It is a beautiful piece of work with a lift-up lid and everything like that on it. It's a sexy beast, yeah.
Yes, the front panel just literally slides out and then to reveal all the drawers inside. And it's really quite deep. It is physically the size of a Kallax cube. It fits perfectly in there. It's almost like they know their market. So I think on the basis that everyone seems to love it, I am going to give it to the Trove Chest. However, because it's not an insert, it doesn't qualify. So the answer will answer... As a storage solution, it is by far the best. But I think the best insert is definitely from Dwellings of Eldervale, which means game trays win everything again. That's something like the 4th year running now. It turns out these boys know what they're doing at games trays.
Funny that.
So yes, well done everybody again at Game Trays for making such a sexy insert.
I haven't ever played that game yet.
No, I've only played it once with Alora. And it is very good, I have to say. I mean, there's a lot of pimp in there, and the models in it. You get kind of beasties that you sort of collectively have to kill, or at least get out the road so you can sort of build more houses. So it's kind of more of a game of who wants to take the hit first, rather than a collective, let's gang up on this thing. But they come on, because I got the Super Pimp version, of course, they come on these little sound bases. So you connect the model to the base, and every time you move the base around, it makes a noise. So it's like a monster roar every time you make the noise. Oh, it's great. Look at his face. Look at his face. Oh, it's amazing. It's gimmick max, but it's brill. And depending on which model you put on it, you can change your setting on the base so it makes a different noise.
This sounds superfluous, but superb.
Exactly, yes. All the S words right there. It is absolutely gimmicky, completely unnecessary. You've paid for pimp. There's absolutely no mechanical purpose for it whatsoever, but it's bloody brilliant.
That sounds intriguing.
Yes, I think you'll actually like the game, to be fair. We'll have to play it at some point and see what you think.
If we can ever meet up again.
Yes, ever. It's all right. By 2025, we might have had the vaccine. So, yes, there you go. Game Trays win it again.
Not really a surprise, but it's well deserved. Let's start talking about the actual games we played then. So there were some things, of course, we haven't played, and we've tried to look at. I've tried to look at a few things that caught my eye that we never got round to playing. I think you've added to the list as well, Andy. So inevitably we miss some things, and we've got some like feedback from listeners towards the end, which list a whole load of games that I didn't even know had come out, which just shows what kind of a year it's been. So some of the games where I'm still waiting to get my head around, I'm still waiting to play Alien, Another Glorious Day in the Core. I'm still waiting to play Dune. There's a good possibility that either one of those is currently at my sister's house, wrapped up with a little gift tag with my name on it. But hopefully lockdown will get cancelled and we can meet up and exchange Christmas presents. I was tempted all year about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. And I thought, I'm not going to get it because I've got Gloomhaven and I'm not playing it at the moment. It's sitting there in its massive box unplayed. But I've heard so many people say that Jaws of the Lion is really, really good and easier to get to the table because it's a much smaller package.
Yeah, because it's in the book, isn't it? It's a bit like Stuffed Fables.
Yeah, so it's a ring-bound book you place flat rather than creating the map each time. You've got a couple as well you've mentioned here, Andy.
Yes, I've seen quite a bit of activity around a game called Paris, which looks like another sort of a game that will appeal to me because it looks like a dry, boring Euro. So definitely quite keen on playing that. That seems to have gone down quite well. Another reviewer seems to think it was boring and themeless, so the chances are I'll probably like it. I've heard a lot of balls about a game called Tidal Blades and some very nice miniatures in that. So that seems to have generated quite a lot of interest. And of course, there is Big Jamie S. The Steg has released Pendulum this year, which none of us have actually even bothered our arses to even investigate. So we're going to have to look at that next year, purely on the basis of grounds of professionalism than anything else. I think you and I are broadly of the same opinion, Steve, that we weren't actually that bothered by it. It didn't seem to grip us.
It's the kind of game where, again, if 2020 hadn't happened and all that, we would have played this at a convention or something like that. Yeah, we would have gone to Aircon or... Well, no, it didn't come out there. It wasn't out by Aircon, but we would have gone to UK Games Expo or another convention and played it with someone else's copy or played a demo copy and probably gone, yeah, I like that. Or, yeah, no, not really. But it hasn't, the theme and the concept hasn't excited me enough. After Tapestry, I was left a little bit kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We had the same feeling because Laura bought Tapestry. We played it a few times, and I was determined to like it, but I've just resigned myself to thinking, do you know what? It's a bit shit.
So yeah, and after that, I'm kind of disappointed, and I've not heard lots of people rave about it either.
No, exactly.
That Pendulum, sorry. So it's not like as if I'm rushing out to get it. But as I said, we put a call out to on various social medias to our listeners to suggest their game of the year, and we've got a whole list of them, but we'll do that towards the end.
It's almost like you're trying to keep them listening, Steve.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be piping in freshly baked bread soon as well, like the supermarkets do.
Oh, do you know what? If we could do smell-o-vision, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Not with you on the podcast, Andy.
God damn it, I shower every day.
It's not the showering that's the worry, it's when you let one rip.
Speaking of which, right, I got some sexy pants for Christmas, right?
God, stop. Where's this going?
Well, you know those ones that are kind of advertised on like every 4 seconds on like Facebook that says, they don't chafe together and, they hold things in the right place and all this sort of stuff. I got some similar to that. I thought, okay, fine, nice present. Let's try them. But I discovered, at least I thought I did, that they have a vent at the back. Turns out they don't. I don't know, sort of scratched my bum at one point. I thought, oh, there's some like texture here. I thought genuinely it's going to have like webbing material to let stuff out, but it turns out it's just text. So no such joy. I was disappointed by that. I thought a genius idea, but no. disappointed there.
I'm still trying to grapple how targeted adverts on Facebook for you are pants. What the hell have you been Googling?
Nothing. That's the scary thing. But there were just sort of generic adverts on pretty much every platform. I think they were just. I can't say. I don't see them much anymore.
I can't say I've ever had an advert for pants.
No, Facebook is very targeted, and what's really annoying is somehow mine and Amanda's accounts somewhere have got confused. So if Amanda searches for anything on Google, it turns up on my Facebook adverts within seconds. And I mean, it's like seconds. It's terrifying.
But weirdly, I haven't been searching for them. They just kind of appeared one day, and I didn't. Basically, my mistake was for a while I didn't tell it to sod off. Now, I have since done that, and it has now not come back. I have to say, though, they're very comfortable, and they do perform as advertised. So,
you know, you are definitely demonstrating your age groups right now.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Once you get to above 40, this must be what it's like.
It is.
You know?
It is. You're
Pants
actually
become
grateful.
the big part of your day. Going to Dreams, shopping for a bed is a big part of your day.
It's true. It's true. Honestly, I was grateful to receive socks for Christmas.
Well, to be fair, that's the only time of year when I get socks, and the only time I buy socks. So I too am grateful.
It's a slippery slope, mate. You're just on the precipice now.
Well,
That's it. It's game over.
There's no 4s in my age yet, mate. So I'm all right. I've got a couple of years left.
You'll be getting kitchen equipment like tea towels and things as well next.
Boy, I could do some new tea towels.
You
Actually.
see, that's it. It's game over. There you go. Sid has now entered middle age live on this podcast.
Right then, let's actually talk about some board games then, or some tabletop games, or some other games. Andy, you've got a massive long list here. Now, what we usually do is we make a long list on a Google Doc that we read off, and me and Andy usually decide what we're going to talk about during recording because we're so indecisive.
Exactly.
So I'm going to push it to you. It gives me another few minutes to think about what I want to talk about.
Well, all right. Do you know what? I'm going to start strong. I'm also going to make your life a bit easier because it's on your list as well. And if it makes both of our lists, the chances are it's probably quite good. And I'm going to talk about On Mars.
Ooh.
Now, that came out quite early this year and was part of an enormous Kickstarter campaign that presumably we both backed, but I took the advantage of the Kickstarter to get a lot of other Eagle Gryphon Lacerda games as well and receive this enormous box that nearly put me back out. And I have to admit, I haven't played any of the others of this package yet. So Lisboa, Venus, The Gallerist, Escape Plan, all of those turned up as well, and I haven't played any of the others yet, despite them all being raved about. But anyway, On Mars is pretty much, it does what it says on the tin. You are on Mars, and you are terraforming the planet, but in a very, very different way to terraforming Mars. So you're building colony buildings, you're sending out little rovers across the planet, but in typical Lacerda fashion, it's extremely heavy brain baking, and you really, really have to think about what you're doing. I think it's probably safe to say it's probably the hardest game I've played in quite some time. In terms of weight and complexity.
I think it's the most complicated game I've ever played.
Yeah.
I actually do.
Yeah.
And I think to the point where I put it on my kind of long list here, but I was not probably going to mention it because I think it's too complicated. It's just over that edge that makes it really difficult to play because I've only played like 2 or 3 games of it, and I played them all within like really short succession. And I think if I got the game out now, I would have to start from scratch learning the rules for it. And it feels a little bit like that's just a smidge too far, but it's brilliant because it's like behind all that complexity is genius.
Yes.
And as you said, the game is made from so many interesting interlocking parts that you really have to think about your actions and what you do, which makes it a really interesting puzzle. But I do wonder whether some of that complexity could have been just filed off a little bit, just sanded down just a little bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, I go for that kind of thing. But I do take your point that it's not a game you'd get to the table very often, unfortunately. And yes, you're right. Unless you played it regularly, it would be a case of, oh God, how do we do that? Check the rulebook again. And of course, that would slow it down even further. It's obviously not a very easy teach because there's a lot going on. It's certainly not something you could play with, casual to middleweight gamers. It would be something that you have to dedicate 3 or 4 hours to.
Yeah.
But it is
easily.
Bloody brilliant.
And it's also beautiful as well. I mean, everything. I mean, it's Ian O'Toole who does the graphic design. I don't think he's made an ugly game, I think everything he sticks his graphical tablet to looks absolutely beautiful, and this is no exception. In all the little PCs, you've got lots of little different tokens. So you haven't just got meeples, you've got astronauts, you've got robots, you've got buildings. They're all little wooden things which all look really lovely from a distance. Everything kind of sticks together quite nicely as well, because it's all this like hex exploring. And it is a little exploration game, so you're building out, you go and get pieces. And again, I think game trades are involved in this, because there's a few little game trades. Although
I don't know if it's game trades. I think it's just Eagle Griffin's really high production value, because the full set of these things from sort of Lacerda, Eagle Griffin, all are very similar inside. They're all really well-made inserts. I don't think they're game trades. I think they're just Eagle Griffin spending a shitload of money on quality.
That's fair enough. I mean, they're not cheap games either.
No, I mean, they're probably the thick end of £100 each, give or take.
Easily, yeah. And it's. I said I like it, but it's too. I think I found my limit, and that's my limit. Beyond that line is too complex. Below that is, I'm happy. But maybe like in 6 months' time or whatever, a year's time, when I've played a few more heavier games, maybe I'll be going over to that.
So, what are you going to pick from your list, Mr. Tudor?
Let's talk about another Euro-y type game. Now, what I try and do is when I try and make like pick three completely different kind of games when I'm talking about this, so that we've got like a bit of variety. And so I really cheat when I say this and pick one and talk about two and then pick the best of the two. Just because
Gaffer's rights, basically.
Yeah. So the two kind of ignoring On Mars, the two kind of really, really good Euros I've played this year have been Tekhenu, Obelisk of the Sun, and Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Viscounts having arrived about 4 or 5 weeks ago, so not very long ago. Now, Tekhenu is almost like a sequel to Teotihuacan, or Teotihuacan if we called it, and has a lot of similar things, but it's a really, really good dice-based Euro game, and it's a proper Euro game. Okay, the theme may be an Egyptian sun god and building Egyptian temples, but that theme could almost be anything, because it's almost pasted on. Whereas Viscounts is a game which it's a Euro game, and it's similar to the other West Kingdom games. And it's very Euro-y. You're making something to change into something to get points at the end of the game. But I feel like it mixes so many different genres really well that it becomes really something quite interesting. I mentioned Tekhenu because I wanted to give Tekhenu a shout out, because I do actually think it's a really good game. But I just think from my favourite Euro for this year, Viscounts beats it.
Really?
Just because I think the problem with Tekhenu is I think it is a bit too similar to Teotihuacan.
You think? Oh, God,
I think so. For me, like the broad spread, it's that kind of like, if you're narrow and you're really into your Tatsini and David Turtsy games and you have your Euros, you can see the difference. To me, it just felt like a remix of it. Whereas I feel like Viscounts, it's a game which mixes so many things up. So it's basically like it's a worker placement, but you've got to move around a circle on the board, which allows you to get your places. So a rondelle, I think most people call it. And the rondelle movement is based on which person you pick to add into your little tableau of cards. Those little tableau of cards all shift, which give you different skills and abilities every single round. And then you've got this little area control in the middle where you're putting little workers onto this castle, and there's like a little castle that goes up, and you're trying to get people to the top of the castle because that gets you the most points. But at the same time, those shift and move things around, and there's a very interesting balance with that. And because it's the West Kingdoms, it all looks beautiful, and every single icon on that board is immediately obvious as to what it does. Right? It could be because I've already played 2 games in that thing. We've already played Paladins and Architects of the West Kingdom, so really used to how those games work. But I thought it was a really cool blend of this rondelle, this area control, and a little deck builder, because deciding what goes into your deck and trying to get cards in and out really can affect how you play the game and the strategy. So I thought it was a really, really good game.
Interesting, because I wasn't that taken by Viscounts. I thought it's the
Really?
I thought it's the weakest of the 3 in that series.
Okay.
Aloha really likes it, but then again, she spanked me both times at it. But I don't dislike it. I just don't think it's as good as the other 2.
Okay.
So, and to be honest, I wasn't. I had this discussion this afternoon actually because Laura's like, "What are you going to talk about in the podcast?" So we had a bit of a discussion, stroke argument, stroke,
a meeting of minds.
Yes, meeting of minds. Yes, and she really likes Tekkenu. She really, really loves it. And I don't dislike it. And obviously, it's Tuskini and Turksy, so two designers that we all love here. And I just don't think Tekkenu's quite as good as Teotihuacan. I like it. It's a good game.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. I'm not saying Tekkenu's a bad game. I think it's a brilliant game. I just don't think it's got the little tiny spark that takes that edge further on.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I wanted to give it a shout out, because I think it deserves having a shout out.
Yes.
I just don't think it's got that je ne sais quoi, as it were, that takes it to like one of the best games of the year.
I will agree with that, yes. I mean, this is your choice, of course, so it doesn't matter whether I agree or not. But yeah, I think we're on the same page in terms of where it sits. So you're gonna go with Viscounts for yours.
I'm gonna go with Viscounts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Viscounts has been an absolutely brilliant game. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Gill.
Wow. Well, mine's a bit one-sided. My list.
In the sense that it is 100% RPGs.
It is 100% and a little bit extra RPG focused, but it's still valid fodder.
It's interesting, actually. I was going to say, because we got you playing a board game online the other week, but it's not out at the moment, and it's coming out next year. So we're going to leave that chat to the next podcast where we do the preview of 2021.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But no, I think this year for me has been a really good year for trying some new systems. So before I give you my winner, I guess is a little bit what we've played. We've done did Call of Cthulhu, Lightless Beacon. That was a good bit of fun. Enjoyed that. And that very different system to what we came out of the back of D&D 5e. And then we kind of moved into the 2D20 stuff with Star Trek and Mutant Year Zero system with Forbidden Lands. All very good stuff. Really good, enjoyable. Actually, it was nice to kind of try something different. Cleanse the palate of D&D. And then, of course, we did have a D&D session in there, or campaign in there as well, which was an interesting little run. But, well, there's no point beating around the bushes there. That it can only be one game. There can be only one game for me this year, and that is Free League's Alien RPG. Oof. It is just no competition. It is just absolutely immense. 3 options within that. That's where my 3 options are going to come into this.
Alien, and Alien.
There's Alien, Chariots of the Gods. I think it's called Hope's Last Day.
Yeah.
And Destroyer of Worlds.
Oh, he's got 3 different products there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
You see, I've got 3 in there as well.
Jesus, right. It's just like, right, sack wallop. There's the pair of aces. Have some of that.
But even within those 3, I know which is my favourite.
So to give a bit of background, so Hope's Last Day is the scenario which comes in the main core rulebook.
Yep.
So these are all the cinematic scenarios.
Yes.
Hope's Last Day is a kind of like tutorial scenario which comes in, which is like a mini one, so it's 1 act rather than 3. To not spoil it, Chariots of the Gods is the kind of exploring of a derelict spaceship, and then Destroyer of Worlds is you're stuck on a planet, you're a bunch of Marines, and all hell's about to break loose. And I won't say any more than that, really.
Yeah, I don't think we can. All run in the kind of Mutant Year Zero system. Very good system. Really impressed with it overall. Simple. Pre-gen characters for all of those, which again allowed us to kind of get into it really quickly, and we had some good fun with those characters. Developed some good emotional bonds. Especially when we lost them.
I went through 2 characters. Oh, Jesus, in the space of about 2 sessions. It was mad. And open the cockpit as a pilot. Perfectly natural thing for a pilot to do. Get eaten.
It was quite traumatic when you lost your pre-gen character.
It was. I was very disappointed, and then it was kind of it was a nice learning curve, though. It's like, oh, okay, right. So this game is very unforgiving, very harsh, and we are going to die. It's pretty much the opposite of D&D, really, where it's very hard to actually kill a character. In Alien, not so much. Very, very squishy. You're going to die. Just get used to it. If you're going to play one of these games, you're going to die. Make your peace with that, and you'll love it.
Yeah, I think you got to be ready to lose your character just as much you are to love a new one. But yeah, a lot of nice touches in there. Things like the critical injury table, great fun on that. You know, insta kills that we didn't know about until they happened. You know, it was impressive. But yeah,
yes, I've got 3 hit points left. You're dead. Get out. Go. No. Game over. Your face is all over that wall.
But it made sense. I think the important thing is it made sense for the game to have those mechanics, and I think that's what made it for me. Really, is it was such a difference from D&D, which is probably the system I'm most familiar with, and also compared to some of the other systems we played, it was the one that it had fantastic writing, it had fantastic characters, it let us slip into it really easily. The whole environment, the cinematic world, it's just brilliant. I mean, how many of us, when we were watching Alien, thought I really fancy being a colonial marine? You know, totally. It let us play that fantasy out, and it did it really, really well. So I think for me, the one that did it is actually Destroyer World. That is my game of 2020. I think it was the best of the 3. It had the most, without kind of doing too much about what it is, it had the more open world. It allowed us to explore more. It gave us a lot of different story arcs almost, and a few side quests which we didn't really have in the other 2. It was just immense. It was absolutely wonderful playing that, and it's almost to the point where I can't wait for the Colonial Marines rulebook to come out.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's fair to say I think we've all pre-ordered that already. So
yeah,
there you go. Says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's been a really interesting system to run as well, because it's, as you've said in the past, because it's been Alien and we are in our group big Alien film fans. We just slip straight into it. You don't have to worry about trying to learn the setting. You just go straight away, and everything feels snug. And that Mutiny Zero system that's based on is so deadly that suits it perfectly as well. You don't stay and fight an alien. You run. You see an alien, you run. And it's the first mistake everyone makes. Everyone thinks it's an RPG. They get the guns out, they start firing.
Nah.
Retreat is a valid option. In fact, it's probably the first option you should do. It's only when the door behind you is sealed and welded shut because you thought you were being clever that you can't go that way.
Turn around, start hammering on the door. Let me through. Oh no, we're dead.
Well, that's the other great thing about it. Is it's so great from a GM to use what your players have done against them. Any other game, you'd reward people for doing things like sealing the door. In Alien, you go, no, you've sealed your own exit. That was a foolish decision on your part.
It was.
It was indeed, yes.
I also love the fact as well, we played these games and you've all seen the Alien films, so you know these things have got acid for blood. But the amount of times you guys fired a shotgun at point blank range at them and went, yeah, we've killed it. I've taken how much damage from the acid?
Oh, this piece of shrapnel is what's left of my armour.
I think you're right. It's such a clever system. It turns traditional RPGing on its head, or what you expect the standard to be. As you said, running in there and shooting something in the face has implications. It has repercussions. You can't just go around doing that.
And it generally inspires tension as well. You just alluded to it there, Steve. Like, we make stupid decisions, like shooting aliens at point blank range because we're desperate to kill the bastard. And then we realise, bollocks, these things bleed acid. Oh, crap, that was a really stupid decision. But it's the only decision you could make at the time because this bloody great xenomorph is bearing down on you. What the hell do you do? I could fire a grenade. No, that's a bad idea. I could shoot. No, I haven't got a weapon ready. What do I do? Punch it in the face. Yeah, that'll work. No, it won't. Yeah, you lose your fist in its mouth.
It's the value I think it gave as well. The tension is really important, and I think you said it before, and it's the threat. I think we got twice the value of the session we played. So we played a 3-hour session. I reckon I got 6 to 8 hours worth of time out of it because I had the 4 hours afterwards. I had the 4 hours after the session where I needed to decompress and hot debrief myself, trying to calm the down.
You know what? After one session, I was convinced there was a xenomorph in my bedroom.
It was.
Turns out it was the cat. But anyway.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I was amazed at how much and how immersive that game became. Just moving around the map, you felt the tension. You weren't sure whether, a xenomorph was going to pop out of a vent or your best buddy had something against you. Because the agenda system in it as well, which I obviously can't talk about the agendas, but I think the principle of the system is really clever. Is it gives a kind of darkness that the game wants and needs, so everybody has a reason for sometimes being a bit of a knob, and I think that's quite important as well. And also, it means that their actions are driven by other parts other than the main story arc, so they're doing something for their own reasons, which I think adds flavour into the game. And
it also means you can't complain at what other people are doing too much. Because the thing about an RPG, like you're working as a cooperative, as a cooperative, you're working together. When someone does something really stupid, there's a part of you that goes, "Well, why are they doing that?" Whereas if you're playing D&D and someone did something really stupid, you'd be going, "Well, you've just done something stupid."
Yes.
Whereas in Alien, you're there going, "Well, did they do that stupid because they are stupid, or have they got some hidden agenda that's really against what we're doing at the moment?" And I really like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it pits player against player. But it does it in a way which makes it fitting with the setting as well. Because you remember in Alien, everyone's out for themselves. The Alien universe, there's not much charity, there's not much hope there. Everyone's looking after number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're always questioning people's motives.
But it gives you a little bit of investigation as well. I think there's that little element in your back of your mind wondering why has Andy shot that person in the face? There must have been a reason for that. He's not completely mental. Well, you never know though, do you? Because is it just because Andy's been Andy, or is it because he's got something in his notes that means he needs to behave in a particular way? And I think that adds a slightly different element to just a standard story arc you're following. And the way and there's so many different ways of playing the story. I mean, Destroyer Worlds, we played it one way. I bet you, if you sat with another group, or even the same group, and played it again, you'd get a completely different... There's huge parts of that map we never went to.
Yes, it's very true. Yeah, there's a lot of potential in all of it. And even in... am I right in saying that in the one we did on the spaceship... Can't remember what it's called now.
Charity of the
Gods, yes. I mean, am I right in thinking that there's a bunch of that we didn't even explore either, Steve? That you had a load of extra material?
There was basically a whole load of stuff at the end. So it was supposed to be part of the final act, but the way in which your agendas came out in that one, you wrote your own final act. So there was a final act I had that I could pull out to make things keep going and keep moving forward, and I didn't need to use them at all.
Most of us died horribly in a fire.
Yeah.
Dangerous things, fires on spaceships.
Yes, they are. Unless you're an android. Okay, so yeah, that was the Alien RPG from Free League. And the fact that it was on my list and Steve's list as well, that makes our job easier. We can cross one off there too.
Yep. I'm going to go complete opposite end of the spectrum of what we've already talked about. One of the standout games for me, and it was a bit of a surprise hit because I kind of didn't intend to buy this, and I'll explain why in a minute. But one of the unintentional hits of this year has been Tranquillity.
Ooh.
I'll say it's a bit of a surprise even to me, this, because we bought this at Aircon, and I only didn't realise at the time that the Aircon copies were advanced production copies.
Oh.
And Kickstarters didn't actually get their copies for another 3 to 6 months. So I didn't actually start seeing this arrive online, in people's snapshots and that until much later. And I completely missed the Kickstarter for this. I know, Andy, you've heard of The Mind. I think you might have even you're one of the few people who's actually played it. Oh, you own it. So that's one where you've got to move, go through cards in order, but without making any communication without communicating with each other. Isn't it? So it is essentially the same game as that.
Okay.
Because what you have to do is you've got loads of cards with little islands on, and they're all numbered, and you have to lay down the cards in numerical order again, without communicating with each other.
Right.
The difference here is you lay it in a grid. So I think it's an 8x8 grid. And the cards are numbered 1 to 100. And so you have to place the cards down the board. And you can place them anywhere you want in this grid. And then everyone else has to lay cards in between to make the order. But if you're placing the cards like with blank spaces either side, it's fine. You just play it. But as soon as you put a card down on the board next to another number, you have to discard the difference between those two numbers in cards.
From your hand or from the table?
From your hand.
Right, okay.
Which means you burn through your cards quicker and you burn through your deck quicker. And when the deck runs out, it's game over.
So you have to get 64 cards out before the deck runs out?
Yeah.
Right. Ooh, that's hard.
Well, this is the weird thing, because when me and Amanda played it, we played it 2 or 3 times. By the time I think we played it 4th time, actually, we'd got it. We'd worked out, where's the mentally, statistically, we'd worked out where's the best spread. Okay, you want like the 70s there, the 30s there, kind of thing. But then we played it with other people, and we did terrible at it. I played it 2 or 3 times with Adam online. We found it was on, I think it was on Tabletopia. And we did absolutely terrible at it, because it's hard to work out where you should put cards and where to burn through cards, knowing like, if I put that card down, I've got to burn through 4 or 5 cards, but that'll put us in good stead. And knowing when to go, I'll just put a number down that's next to the previous number. It's a really, really clever game, which takes that simple idea of the mind, but takes it a little bit further. So there's a little bit more to think about, which means you don't have to rely just on this lack of communication and eyebrow wiggles and whatever it is you use. You can also plan it and think, right, well, this is the best place for that card, so I'm going to put it down. So 2 strategically minded people can do it without communicating. And it also looks absolutely beautiful. So all the little cards are dual-sided, and what they are is it's a picture of an island with a little boat in, but you've got a water reflection. And the reason that works is no matter which way round you look at the cards, they look the right way up.
Okay.
Because the reflection in the water. Yeah. And they're all it's absolutely beautiful. So when it's all laid out, it looks pretty. I mean, you'll likely not get it all laid out, because it's really easy to make a mistake in this.
Right.
Really easy to get to the end of the game and go, where the hell is 63? We needed 63. And somebody else go, I discarded that on the second round.
Yes.
So it's been it's been a bit of a surprise hit, because I didn't see any buzz for this game. I didn't hear about it on Kickstarter. It took me completely by surprise, and I don't think I even saw it when we were walking around Aircon. I think I just looked at it and just went, oh, it's all right. And Amanda was like, no, this looks really pretty. This looks really nice. We're buying this. And the only thing we missed out is we didn't get the playmat. Apparently, the previous person had bought the last playmat for it.
Aww.
So that's Tranquillity.
Okay, and that came out this year then, I assume?
That did come out this year,
because you got the advanced copies, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going to do what you've done now and go for something that's not my usual bag, baby.
Ooh.
And I'm going to talk about Azul Summer Pavilion. Now, I know originally it was released in 2019, so I'm kind of bending the rules a little, but I didn't actually get it until this year. And this is when we first played it. And I think it came out towards the end of 2019 anyway, so sod it, it'll count. And it's...
It's 2020, you can bend the rules, it's fine.
It'll do, yes. So Azul, the first one's been out for a few years now, and then they brought out the Stained Glass of Sintra, which was a kind of a twist. And then this is a further twist on Azul. And I reckon it's probably the best of the 3.
Ooh.
Yes. Now it's very familiar in the sense that you've got your little factories of tiles. You put 4 of them out, and when you take one, you take all of the same color, and the rest go into the middle, and then you can take from the middle. But there's a few nice twists. So the idea is that you've got a bunch of essentially hexagons. So you've got sort of rhombus-shaped tiles, but they all go in to fit essentially 6 spaces of each of the 6 colors, and one in the middle that you can make of 1 of each. You get big bonuses for completing a full set of these things. But the idea is that you score by having sort of, say you want to score, put a tile on the 5 spot of, say, the orange one. Then you would need 5 of those tiles in order to put 1 on the space 5, 2 on the 2, and
Right.
3 on the 3, and so on and so forth. The rest of them, when you only put 1 on, but the rest of them you discard into the big tower, which then goes into the bag later on. So you cycle through the bag in the same way you do the other games. The difference here is that there are joker tiles. So each round of 6, there's a different colour that stands as a joker. So you can use the joker to supplement the sort of sets that you're defining. And like in Azul, you basically score with adjacent. So if you put a tile down, you score all the adjacent ones as well. So if you put 1 down, you'll get 1. If you put 1 next to that one, you'll get 2 points for that one, and yada yada yada. And then there are big bonuses for completing all of the sets. And then, of course, there's the player interaction where you can steal one that somebody else is interested in, or you can force them to take a big detriment by taking, a massive amount of tiles in the middle so they lose a load of points. So it's all still there. I just think it's just slightly tighter and nicer than the previous 2. Okay. And it's a really straightforward teach, like the other 2 Azul games are. It's still beautiful. It's got the same hefty, plastic resin tiles tokens that are all in the previous ones. And I think personally, it's just a slightly better game. It's slightly more refined. I think the first Azul was good. Stained Glass of Sintra, I think, lost something. I don't think it was quite as good. And then Summer Pavilion, I think, is actually probably the best of the 3, if I'm brutally honest. And Alora and I, we first played it, I think it was in Nerdy, actually, in Shrewsbury, a few months ago when we were allowed out. We sort of tried it and went, yep, that's pretty good. We're buying that. So I did. And we've played it quite a few times since. So, yeah, we've really enjoyed it. So, yeah, Azul Summer Pavilion, really enjoyed this year.
Cool. I mean, I haven't tried that one yet. I tried Stained Glass, and of course, we played the original Azul loads. And I was only now about getting some Pavilion, but I think it might have been an Aircon again. We were looking at it on the shelf and going, should we not? Do we play Azul enough? It's going to get bought eventually, I think, especially if you reckon it's the best one.
I genuinely do. I think it's just got a slightly more refined approach to it. I mean, ultimately, mechanically, I suppose it's exactly the same as the first one in terms of you need a set of number of them, and then you only transfer 1 over. But obviously, in the first one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 that you can transfer over. Whereas this one, you get more of a choice, but it allows you to plan more. But there's also you get bonuses for completing certain arrangements of them as well, and then you can draw additional tiles from an additional selection. So there's just a little bit more going on, and I think it just works really, really well. Do you have a third, Mr. Tudor? And see you looking at your list, concentrating, going, talk more, Andy. I need more time to decide.
No, I think I decided this quite early on, and I said I'd like to have a good spread. I don't like to pick one kind of game when we pick these 3. So I've done the really light end, which was Tranquillity. And I've done the heavy end, which was Viscounts. I think in the middle is the Isle of Cats.
Okay.
Now, I don't actually own this game, but I've played it loads because Amanda's friends bought a copy because I think they're obsessed with cats. And John and Kaz have bought a copy as well. So I've played it with John as well.
And they have a cat.
And they have a cat. They're obsessed with cats. As are you.
I don't own it, though.
No, true. This is from our good friend Frank at City of Games and is a polyomino style game. But it's kind of in the middle of the kind of complexity. So the idea of the game is you've gone to an island and you're rescuing a bunch of cats and putting them onto your ship and sailing the ship away. And these ships are these polyominoes, so different shaped cats, and you have a weirdly shaped deck of a ship. And what you're trying to do is fit them all in and get as many cats as you can onto the ship, but also at the same time cover up certain aspects and cover up certain rules. And you get bonus points for having groups of cats of the same colour, and you get bonus points for particular rooms covering up. And I think you also get lose points for any rats you can see. So if you can cover up a rat with a cat, you get extra points. But what makes this game more interesting, I mean, that whole concept comes in loads of other games. Where Isle of Cats is really clever is it's got some other layers on top of that. So it's got a Bunny Kingdom style card system. And I say it's Bunny Kingdom because it's very, very similar, but I also know Bunny Kingdom is one of Frank's favourite games, and you can see where you get inspiration from this. Because it's one of those systems where you get a deck of cards and you'll be going through a lot of cards each round, but the cards are like massively multi-purpose. Some of them can give you endgame bonuses, some of them give you resources you can spend and buy now. Other ones allow you instant actions, that kind of thing. And you're burning through this deck, and it is a massive deck, trying to work out what's best. Do I go for this endgame scoring? Do I go for that endgame scoring? And by the end of it, it's not just about what's on your board. Everyone's revealing like 7 or 8 bonus tiles that they can do to get different things, and there'll be group ones as well that they've revealed all the way through. There's also an interesting thing about having the resources to get them, because it's not just a case of you grab these tiles, you have to have resources to buy the tiles from like one of 2 stacks that appear on the board. And certain cats are definitely more valuable. Like everyone can see like, oh, Andy's collecting green cats. So Andy's going to want to get that green cat. So he's going to spend a lot of resources trying to get that first. Do we allow him? Or do we make him spend all his resources?
Oh, so it's a bit like Castle of Mad King Ludwig in that sense, that you change the market and force your opponents to pay more.
It's not quite as advanced as that. I would say it's a lighter version of that, but that effect does happen. Right. And there's also there's these special cats that come out as well, which are, when they come out, like everyone pounces on them because they're worth just points just for having them. And then if certain bonus cards come out, they're even more valuable. So I personally think it's a really good and one of the best of these polyomino games. It's more complex than, say, the like Summer Garden, Winter Walk, or whatever they're called. Ones from Uwe Rosenberg, so a bit more complex than that, and definitely a couple of levels above things like Bear Park.
Right, yeah.
But still less complicated than A Feast for Odin.
That wouldn't be hard. I mean, in terms of complexity, that's up there with On Mars and Lisboa and stuff like that, isn't it? Let's be fair.
So it happily sits in, it happily takes the crown for the kind of mid-complexity polyomino game.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I still haven't played it, so I should do, really. It's part of Frank's sort of white series, because he's got 2, hasn't he? He's got the black series, which is sort of the bigger, heavier, more complex games, and he's got the white series, which are the sort of slightly lighter, more easily accessible sort of shorter games. So this is the second one in the white series, I think, because he's done Fedoran Gardens and he's done Isle of Cats.
Fedoran Gardens is the first one, yeah.
And he's done one in the black series, I think, so far, which is City of Kings.
I think there was supposed to be another Black Series game coming out very soon.
Yes.
And it looks like that's been delayed, because I was expecting that this year.
This year, yeah, I think so.
Even if it was just on Kickstarter this year. But
it's a prequel to City of Kings, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Something to do with Vesh, which is his sort of designated bad guy in that universe. Well, I suppose I've got to pick a third now, haven't I?
Yes, I think you should.
And I'm struggling now because there's 3 jumping out at me.
Go on, tell us what the 3 are, and we can help you narrow it down.
Okay, well, you won't be able to, because 2 of them you haven't played. Which I think you haven't played. One of them is Dwellings of Eldervale.
Correct. I haven't played that.
No, you haven't played that. That is it's the one that we talked about before, about having lots and lots of pimp and beauty and stuff, and it's a hex-based, I'm going to say area control a bit, in the same way that Scythe is a bit area control. That you can all go into any hex you like, but ultimately one person can do something with it and scores points for it at the end of the game. The map can change, though, unlike Scythe. So it's a lot more sort of replayable from that point of view. It's very difficult to describe how to play it, to be honest, without going into lots of complexity, so I won't. But I will say that it probably benefits from more than 2. It's not bad with 2, so Laura and I have played it a couple of times now. But I think it needs more, because it's got a lot more interaction than Scythe has. But it's kind of got that, there's always more available on your character sheet and in your resources than you can ever actually achieve in the game. You've basically got to pick a path of not of least resistance, but of scoring, and sort of kind of stick to that and see what happens. Of course, it'll all go wrong when your opponents get in the way, but it's very pretty, very beautiful, and very clever. So it's one of these where you have to commit resources permanently to your end goal, which therefore reduces your capacity in the short term. So it's always this nice conflict of, do I get lots and lots of beeples and therefore lots of actions and keep doing that, and then sort of burn them all at the end, or do I have this sort of slow burn where I'll gain 2, spend 1, gain 2, spend 1, and then have this sort of slower burn and slower gain. So it's a nice little offset, and there's lots to it. So I really quite enjoyed it. But again, I think it needs more players than 2. The second one I'm going to talk about is Tang Garden, which I know you have played.
I have played, yes. Yes.
Which I think is a very clever game. It's also extremely extremely pretty. In fact, probably one of the most beautiful games I've ever played, and that's saying something these days because, as we've said before, being pretty these days is pretty much a mandatory requirement for most board games. And the idea of Tang Garden is you are building a Zen garden with your opponents, but the difference is you can put these different individuals who have different abilities into your garden and make them face different ways, as if they're musing and casting their eye over the garden or in the landscapes in the distance. But the beautiful thing is you can create those landscapes and you can put the tiles in the garden to either help you and or detriment your opponents, because you ultimately score points for what these characters look at the end of the game. The only downside of Tang Garden is the iconography is bloody awful. For such a pretty game, the iconography is really hard to read without a magnifying glass. But I've really enjoyed it. I think it's a really clever game. It's very different to the sort of game I usually go for. And I quite enjoyed it. The third one I was going to mention was Escape the Dark Sector, which you introduced me to earlier this year.
Yes.
Which is a sort of sequel to Escape the Dark Castle from a couple of years ago. And it's based on this sort of very sort of early sort of Steve Jackson, Ian Livingstone fighting fantasy type games where you've got to make lots of random decisions. Here is a situation, deal with it in, one or two or three ways, usually involving shooting it, hitting it, or running away. Or in my case, falling down a hole on the very last card of the game and breaking your leg and losing with the airlock in sight. But it's recently been on Kickstarter with a couple of expansions, and I really enjoyed it. It's a light game, it's a fun game, you're all on the same side, everyone has a little special power that they can sort of break out every now and again, and it's one of these, well, you do this and I'll do that, no, you're better equipped for this, so you take on with that, but there's always something that's going to screw you up. I think Sid will love it for that reason alone. It's very similar to the Alien system in that sense, that there's always something that's going to go wrong, something that's going to eat you. And more often than not, you'll lose rather than win. So I really enjoyed it for that. And of course, it's got the nostalgia for that sort of ropey 80s, 90s artwork that seems to be making a comeback these days. So I am forced to choose between those three, and I don't want to.
No, I can't comment on Dwellings, because as you said, I've not played that. Tang Garden, I thought was really, really nice. I thought it was really clever, and as you said, it's a game which is beautiful on purpose. Like a lot of games are beautiful because they just look beautiful. Tang Garden, that beauty is part of the garden. It's baked, part of the game. Sorry, it's baked in. It is part of the theme. You are building a beautiful garden. Yes. That's the point. Yes. But if I had to choose out of them two, it's definitely for me Escape from the Dark Sector, because I had so much more fun playing it. I think it was such a more fun experience. Tang Garden was an interesting experience, whereas I found Escape was much more fun. For the reasons you said, I mean, it's really trashy. It's if you want to say Euro versus Ameritrash, it's one of the trashiest games you can come across. You really is, roll lots of dice, there's some dodgy artwork, and you're going to get yourself killed or murdered or whatever by an alien or something else at some point. But yeah, it really tickles the nostalgia muscle. It's
you're going to die, but you'll have fun doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But
it's your decision.
I know it is. I'm looking at Escape the Dark Sector now, and is it better than Tang Garden? I can't. The thing is, I haven't played Dwellings of Eldervale enough to comment on its roundedness, because I haven't played it with enough people. Whereas with Tang, I've played it with 3 or 4. I should pick Escape the Dark Sector for all of the reasons you've said, but I can't help thinking that Tang Garden's just a slightly better game. But at the same time, it's got annoying flaws with it that piss me off. So I'm going to say Escape the Dark Sector. There we go. Decision made.
Decision made. An excellent choice there.
I thought so. It is just fun.
Yeah. It's surprising, actually. You play games like On Mars, which you mentioned, which you enjoy, but you realise at some points they're not fun. Yeah. they are a puzzle, a cerebral puzzle that you need to get your head round, but you've spent so long learning it and so long trying to work out how exactly it all fits together. And you play something like Escape the Dark Sector, you go, oh yeah, I forgot this enjoyment.
Yeah, this is why we play games.
Yeah.
It's like when you and I got told off by Amanda for having too much fun playing Wreck and Ruin.
Yeah, exactly.
Driving a big rig over a ramp to avoid an enemy. Yes!
And then running over a car which goes out of control and smashes into the other big rig, causing shitloads of damage.
This is why we play games. Okay, right. From fun and laughter and happiness to the pretty much opposite end of the spectrum.
You got to bring us back down to ours, don't you, Andy?
See, last year Andy wanted to call this the Brown List.
I did, and I thought it was a good idea. But you've been politically correct and nice and friendly and happy about it.
Well, yeah, because last year we said it was the original idea was that all the games we thought were crap, and we thought, no, that's a bit unfair. It's the games which have been a disappointment. The games we were hyped about and then just went, There's 3 on here. I've only played one of them, Andy. Actually hadn't thought about something. It was a massive disappointment. I mean, 2020 as a whole.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I think we could probably just scrub the whole thing and go, yeah, the entire year. Let's give this award to 2020. The biggest disappointment.
It is just a massive bin fire, isn't it?
It really is, yes. Because I've put some games on here, but one of them's from 2019, so we could probably ignore it. There is a game on here that I've already mentioned so far, but that wasn't originally released in 2020 either. And could also be put down to me not doing my research before backing it. And also, there's another one on here that's probably just going to annoy Sid. So, do you know what? Let's move on.
No, it won't annoy you. It won't annoy me. The other one on the list, I'm going to give it a little bit of airtime because it was a disappointment for me. On paper, so the game. So I should say what the game is. So the one on the list that I think I'm going to give very time today is Heart RPG. We've talked about it before. I think
at length.
My opinion, your opinions are aligned, but I do think it was a disappointment. I don't think it was a bad game necessarily. I just think for me, I expected something else, and I did feel at the end of it, I didn't deliver it for me. So it was a big disappointment because on paper, I was excited for that. I really was.
Yeah, I think we all were when we started. Nutcase Underdark, sign me up.
See, I think we are currently playing through Forbidden Lands, and we'll talk about it in more detail in a few episodes' time because I think we need to get a lot more games under our belt before we talk about it. But the basic premise from a rules point of view of having a game in which you guys lead, in which you have complete openness and the map gets created as you go, kind of thing. So far, I'm seeing Forbidden Lands do that better.
Yeah.
Agree.
And I think it's going to be an interesting comparison once we've got a few more games of that under our belt.
Yeah. I'd say I don't want this to be an unfair attack at Heart, but I think for me personally, I did feel like it was going to be more, and I think Steve's spot on there. I think Forbidden Lands is doing what I'd hoped Heart would have done, but it's doing it better. But a few more sessions, and we can add some more colour to that.
Yep, we could either big up or completely destroy Forbidden Lands. Stay tuned.
2021 teaser for you.
So, speaking of leading the way, there's a lovely segue for you. By,
smoother than an otter down a water slide.
I don't know if it's 2020, it's probably a lava slide. You were good enough to ask our listeners what they thought their favourite game was in a thinly veiled attempt to stop us doing any more work.
I think it's an interesting one because I often find we've done this in the last few years, and what people suggest, on the forums, on Facebook, and on Twitter, they often mention games that we've either never heard of or had kind of just brushed to one side and gone, I didn't think, didn't even look at that in detail, and it opens your eyes sometimes and goes, maybe I need to look at that a bit further. So we've had hell of a response, and some people have just mentioned a couple of games. Some people have actually gone into a lot more detail. So we'll go through this as best we can, and then we'll pick our game of the year. So let's pick out some of the games we've had mentioned. So Nick Vega would love to say Pandemic Legacy Season 1, but they're only in May, and it feels like cheating to say it. And also, which the thing is, like with Pandemic, I mean, I've only got into September of the original Pandemic Legacy, And I would still say it's a brilliant game unless something really horrible happens in the last few months. But you're right, you can't really call it too early, can you?
It's pretty good because I finished it as well. So I played your campaign and I played my own campaign with some different people. We did finish that one, and it does maintain its tension and momentum towards the end.
You've not tried season 0 yet, have you?
No, I've got season 2, which I haven't started yet, but I haven't got season 0.
Yeah, and he also mentions that On Mars is a fantastic game, and I think we've said that. Speaking of which, John H says that On Mars has been his favourite game of the year by a good amount, and says that it feels like a return to strength for Vital Lacerda after the relative disappointment of Escape Plan.
Ooh, interesting, because I started to learn Escape Plan and thought it was a bit weird, but I haven't played it yet, so I don't know.
Okay. So other favourites of the year included Pragma Kaput Regni.
Never heard of it.
I probably pronounced that horribly wrong. I have heard of that, but I've not seen any pictures or anything of that. I think it's up your street, that one, Andy. Quite heavy Euro, dry as overdone toast. Rococo Deluxe. Now, I was on the fence about buying Rococo, which is one of the 2 games that make it big about making dresses.
Yeah, Laura mentioned that to me this afternoon. She says, have you not heard of that? I said, I've heard of it, but I haven't really seen much of it. I've not looked into it, so...
He also mentions High Rise, and I don't think I've again, High Rise is one of the ones I've seen, but that kind of had a little bit of a... That's had some ups and downs, weirdly, because it was a game which looked like it needed miniatures, and apparently the first version didn't have miniatures. So they went back to Kickstarter with that. But I've heard some other good things about that. Phil Fenity mentions Isle of Cats, which of course we've mentioned, saying it's game of the year. Great art, clever gameplay, lovely components, and light rules. So the complexity means it comes in your planning and decisions and not small print of the game. He also says he'd like to nominate Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, not because we've played it yet, because it's currently under the Christmas tree, and it's kept number 2 son out of mischief on Boxing Day, making the insert for it.
It's good use. It's good time, that.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I got things like that, it was usually Lego that kept me occupied when I was a youngster rather than a box insert. But, it is basically Lego, isn't it? You're putting it together in a certain order.
He said Phil also says he'd like to give a shout out to Paul Grogan, who's been doing loads of stuff on the Gaming Rules YouTube channel, with which we've been a part of some of it.
We have. Lucky us.
So, yeah, good. Always give a shout out to Paul.
Colin says Happy New Year to us all. I suspect by the time this podcast goes out, that would be applicable.
Yes.
A nod from the gaffer. Yep. His game of the year is Machina Arcana, 2nd edition, premium edition. Many editions here. Great Archiving story with clever gameplay and upgradable gear. Very nice. I assume he means within the game, as in crafting, rather than you can upgrade the game components. But the game uses standees and not minis, which does not detract from the experience at all. Fair enough. He is still waiting, I think, like many of us actually, for games that he should have received in 2020, and is still waiting for them. So yes, I know how you feel, Colin. There are plenty of Kickstarters that have not shipped yet for perfectly legitimate reasons. Obviously, the unspecified virus of unknown origin has detracted from many projects. Andy Down. He says Santa brought him Alien, so Santa's dropped his linen and stopped his grinning. So he says he's really... Oh, no, I lie. Not the game, the RPG. I misread that. So he's playing... He's played the first cinematic experience based on our enthusiasm. So there you go, Sid. You've got a...
He's done the right thing, as far as I'm concerned.
He has, yeah.
Santa's a legend.
Finished cinematic experience last night. Wow, geez, you got into that quick. And he's got Destroyer of Worlds, so yes, I think you'll definitely enjoy that one. That's much bigger. His favourite game is Undaunted in North Africa. Although he's got On Mars set up. Good luck with that. I'm on. Oh, he's too overwhelmed to start. Yeah, I'm not surprised. That is justified.
We're Not Wizards says to us, Endangered. Now, you guys are going to have to hold my hand through this a little bit, not my area of expertise. But he's also really liked The Few and Cursed from Rock Manor Games and Ragusa from Braincrack Games.
Now, I thought Ragusa was 2019. But if I'm wrong, then that should be on my list as well, because Ragusa's
Yeah, we did say that games that you've enjoyed in 2020. As I said, we've because of the bin fire that is 2020, anything that's brought you joy, basically.
Yeah, Ragusa is bloody good. It's a favourite of ours as well. To be fair, I mean, Steve, me, and Adam got through a game now in with learning as well in 45 minutes.
Yeah,
but we don't hang around when we play games.
Really good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Venice and whatever the third game is in this system is going to be.
There's a third?
There's going to be a third game.
I say that with, some surprise, but I'm not surprised at all because it's obvious they're milking this cash cow for all it's worth, and why not? They're damn good games.
Now, I don't know Endangered from Grand Gamers Guild, and I don't know The Few and the Curse from Rockmanor games either. I've not come across these games at all.
No, Richard is going to have to educate us on that one. That's I've not heard of them either at all. The Few and the Curse sounds like some kind of biker gang.
Rollersters podcast have mentioned a couple of things to us, and they're a role-playing game podcast, and I must admit, I have no idea what they're talking about on either of these. So he's talked about Passion de la Passions, which appears to be an RPG about like ropey South American daytime soap operas.
Oh, wonderful.
Which means it looks really, really weird.
Is it like, do you know what I'm reminded of when you say that? Is do you remember the original introduction to Command and Conquer, where you're kind of flicking through the channels and there's that ropey love interest, and the woman slaps the man and the man slaps the woman, and this will lock in and embrace. It must be that. It's got to be that.
It's along those lines, but looks yeah. I'm just looking at the Kickstarter now, and basically it's an RPG book that looks like a Mills and Boon.
Oh, dear God. Also, that's the one with the cover. It looks like Avasarala from The Expanse.
Yes, that's the one that's on the tweet, yeah. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Quick side note, this is Rabbit Hole. In the fourth series of The Expanse is bloody amazing.
Fifth season, Fifth season, yeah. But damn, it's all weekly. I can't binge watch it.
Oh, no. See, I've still got to catch up. I started the first, but I haven't got through
and
it yet.
episode 4 just leaves you crying out for more. It really does. It just all gets going.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Bastards.
Ah, damn them all.
Good telly.
It's out tomorrow. It's all right. It's a new episode tomorrow night. So every Wednesday. So you came in at the right time because you got 4 in before. I got 3 that dumped 3.
Yeah.
And then they dumped 1 last week, and I'm been itching for a week to watch it. Doing my edit.
Okay, back to listener feedback. Steve McGilvery says Marvel Champions LCG, which that's another one that came out 2019, but I fully concur with that. That's a brilliant little LCG game. Robert McCormick says Full Moon Jacket, which is something I don't know. Aliens Another Glorious Day in the Core, which of course we mentioned. Isle of Cats, which we mentioned. Star Wars Unlocked, which I believe one person on this podcast owns a copy of this at the moment.
Oh.
I have it sat on my desk in the shrink wrap. It is going to get cracked out. Probably Hogmanay, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh. And Small World of Warcraft, which I'm on the fence about because I love Small World, and this is Small World with the World of Warcraft theming on. And my wife loves World of Warcraft, but we both looked at it and kind of going, well, is it the same game or is it actually a different game? And if it's the same game with a skin, it's like, well, do we really need it?
Yeah. Is it what they've done with Betrayal House on the Hill and just pasted on Baldur's Gate and made the same game?
Yeah.
David Samuels, he's definitely on my side of the fence on this one. He's saying Tekhenu and Halatau, so some sort of medium to heavy Euros there. I've heard of Halatau, I've heard some good things about it. It seems to be very popular, but I haven't yet played it. And Craig Haggart seems to be along our lines of thinking as well. He's a big fan of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. Underwater Cities, another one that seems to have got a lot of hype, but we've not played it at all.
That's 2018.
Is it that old?
Cities? I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
I'm sure it was in 2018 that came out.
Wow. Okay.
Derek Neal mentions that most of the games he's been playing with have been RPGs. Yeah, because he's in our RPG group. So he mentions Alien RPG, which he basically says that it's easily the winner, and he says that theme, mechanics, and writing all come together, and it's a joy to behold. And then last of all, I've put a little photograph of this because I had to include this. David Coulthurst, who some of us, our friends, know as Spiky Dave, he mentions cartographers, but has put a photograph of cartographers. But as far as I can work out, it's a homemade version because he's made little polyomino tiles so he doesn't have to draw on the pieces of paper.
See, that's sensible, because that's basically turning the Tabletopia, or TTS, whichever version it is we played, which uses little sort of online tiles, into sort of reality. And do you know what? I preferred it as that.
Yeah.
Because I can't be arsed with roll and write. It's effort, and I'm not very good at art, and I just can't be bothered. It's like, just give me a little tile, that'll do. And that, David, is brilliant thinking. Excellent. I fully endorse that approach.
Got to find out. Has he made that himself?
It'll be obviously 3D printing, but I don't know. It can't be that difficult. It is literally just a series of cubes in a line.
True.
And he's quite handy, is Dave, because he does woodwork and other crafty things. So I would not be surprised if he'd made it himself.
That's the listener feedback. Now, it's this time of the episode where we usually decide our game of the year. Usually there is much deliberation, much discussion.
Shall I get my pipe out?
I don't think you need to, because by the time you've lit it, I think we can say, because I'm pretty sure what I know the answer is. And I've
By
written
the
it
time
down.
my arse has gone out the chair, it'll have been decided.
I think we should leave people hanging and let them guess.
Should we put editing a drum roll now?
Oh, I can't be asked finding a drum roll.
Nah.
So I think I can safely say that the Polyhedron Collider game of 2020 has been Alien the role-playing game. And that's across board games and RPGs. I think that is the most fun I've had gaming this year by far.
Yeah,
And I think that's the important distinction is whilst, I mean, Laura already kind of knew what the answer was going to be. She says, you can't say that, it's not a board game. So I don't care. We've had the most fun with it this year. We've all loved it and we want more. And you can't really ask for anything else. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to play. That's why we play, is for fun and murder.
Yep. Threat and death. That's what we want.
It is a truly remarkable game, and even just buying the game to flick through and read through, just reading through that rule book. I mean, because there's more information in that than some of the other official Alien guidebooks you've bought. Here's the Guide to Colonial Marines. I swear there's more information in an RPG book about the Alien universe and how it all fits together than 100 fan theory websites.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes. And it's so beautifully presented as well. I mean, that book is gorgeous. As a product, it is worth just having it for it being on your shelf. In fact, after all of this, I've obviously hit Free League very, very hard and bought a lot of their things. All of the Alien stuff included, Forbidden Lands, Tales from the Loop. I mean, God, they're pretty. So, I mean, just having them on the shelf now, they're over there behind me, you might be able to see. They're just beautiful on the shelf because the quality of their products is just absolutely superb. And it's really well put together. It's definitely worth them. And the thing is, none of them are particularly expensive either. I think even the core rule book is cheaper than one of the D&D core rule books.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
About the same.
Which seems to be the going rate for them.
It's very, very good value.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent value. Really easy to read. Very well put together. Very well explained as well.
Yeah.
The way the system works. This is role-playing if you're new. And they really sort of hold you by the hand and take you through the whole thing from step by step. From this is how you create a character. This is how it all works. Right, stop here if you're a player. You don't want to ruin the game. GM, you carry on.
It's been a fascinating game to run as well. Because the rules mechanics are so simple. And simple things like you don't have to worry about ammo. You're firing off guns and running out of ammo is an important thing, but rather than the game system going, right, track how many bullets are in your gun, you've effectively got infinite bullets until you panic. And that's when you run out. And so it means basically you run out of ammunition at the worst possible time.
And that's the point.
Yeah. And it makes it feel cinematic. It doesn't feel like you're playing a simulation. It plays like you're playing in a story.
And it just gives us that tension as well. It goes wrong at precisely the wrong time. So you're fumbling with a clip, and the xenomorph's bearing down on you, and everyone else goes, shit, we've got to protect him. Literally, drop in and run.
Yeah, it's an absolute gem. I can't praise it enough.
Well, there we go. Unanimous decision, which I think is probably the first time ever on Polyhedron Collider.
No, it's our second unanimous decision.
Second? What was the first?
The first one was Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
That was the very first time we did this when we were all so young and naive.
But I still think that
Back in the pre-industrial dystopia of 2016.
But that was another game that deserved it, though. I mean, we were like straight away, like, yes, this is it, without a doubt.
Yep. Before we even start, we know what the answer's going to be, and I suppose that's good. You know, we've just wasted 2 hours of people's lives, fannying around, dallying around, dancy, prancy. Let's. Here's the issue in the middle. No, we're not going to go there yet. It's Alien. There you go.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We've been Polyhedron Collider. We will be back soon with a preview episode of 2021, which will no doubt be a bigger preview than we first thought due to the amount of games that got cancelled and delayed into 2021, or those that are just stuck in a Dover at the moment, which I think there's 3 Kickstarters I've got currently stuck in Dover at the moment. So
I think I've got one of those as well.
Yeah, January could be shaping up quite nicely.
Indeed. My postie's going to put his back out, I think, if one of them's the one I think it is.
So yes, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed us, please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. You can also chat to us if you want. We are on Twitter and Facebook and all the other places. On Twitter, we're at PolyhedronC. I am at Wahofflemadenga.
I am at Sonic H with a 0, and John is at John_Cage. Mr. Gill, have you got yourself a sensible Twitter account?
I'll put that on my to-do list for next year.
Okay.
Well, as I said before, I have got a Twitter account. I put a challenge out to anyone who can find me. Good luck to you.
Were you a teenager when you made it? It's basically that's what you're saying.
I think I might have been drunk, more to the point.
That's not like you. We are also on Facebook and on the Board Game Geek Guild number 2726.
And on a similar note, if there's any games you are looking out for in 2021, drop us a line on any one of them. I'll give you a shout out and see what everyone's excited for our next episode. But until then, I've been Steve.
I've been Andy.
I've been Sid.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.